Elijah Brooks moves silently through the sterile corridors of the Cleveland Clinic, a figure almost invisible in the blur of hospital activity. Working the graveyard shift as a janitor, his role is usually overlooked, but his presence is steady and reliable. The hospital, a place of healing and urgency by day, transforms at night into a quieter, more somber environment, where Elijah's routine unfolds with meticulous care. His tasks are ordinary yet essential: mopping floors, emptying trash bins, wiping down surfaces. Elijah performs each with the precision of someone who understands the importance of cleanliness in a place where life and death often hang in the balance. Despite the simplicity of his job, there's a certain dignity in the way he works, a quiet pride that elevates even the most menial duties. As he moves from one ward to the next, the hospital's hum becomes a backdrop to his thoughts, and the faint glow of overhead lights casts long shadows on polished floors. Though largely invisible to the medical staff rushing past him, Elijah's observant eyes miss little. He notices a nurse struggling with a patient's chart and softly offers a correction about medication dosage, though he keeps his voice low enough to avoid drawing attention. When he passes the surgical team's whiteboard, he subtly adjusts a diagram of an anatomical structure, correcting an error that most would overlook. These small actions hint at a deep reservoir of knowledge and experience, knowledge that doesn't belong to a typical janitor. Elijah's demeanor is quiet, almost withdrawn. His shoulders carry a weight that's not just physical but emotional, a burden tied to a secret past. Flashbacks intermittently reveal a former life, images of him in a crisp white coat, confidently directing surgical procedures, earning respect and admiration from colleagues. There are moments of triumph, but also shadows, suggestions of a fall from grace or a painful choice that led him away from the operating room and into the janitor's closet. This duality defines him, a man caught between worlds, living in obscurity but haunted by memories of a time when he was seen, valued, and at the center of life-saving decisions. The hospital's quiet night rhythm continues until a sudden emergency shatters the calm. Elijah encounters a patient in distress, someone whose heart has stopped beating, a critical situation that demands immediate intervention. Instinct overrides hesitation. Without hesitation, Elijah steps forward, revealing skills honed long ago but never forgotten. He performs CPR with practiced hands, compression steady and effective, breaths delivered with precision. The urgency of the moment contrasts sharply with the usual stillness of his shift. This act of life-saving courage is witnessed by a young resident, who turns just in time to see Elijah's unexpected intervention. Her eyes widen in surprise, recognizing both the skill and the rarity of the moment. Elijah's carefully constructed invisibility begins to unravel as the resident processes what she has seen, a janitor performing with the confidence and expertise of a trained doctor. The incident disrupts his hidden existence, setting the stage for inevitable questions and changes. Throughout the chapter, Elijah's character is revealed through his actions more than his words. He embodies humility, resilience, and an unspoken sorrow, all wrapped in the daily grind of cleaning hospital floors. Yet beneath the surface lies a man who still carries the healer's heart, a heart that refuses to remain silent, even in the shadows. The ordinary world he inhabits is about to collide with the extraordinary, as the consequences of his secret unfold with the arrival of dawn. Elijah's world unravels in the wake of the emergency incident that thrust him into an unwanted spotlight. Once able to move quietly and unnoticed through the sterile corridors of the hospital, he now finds himself the center of whispered speculation and sideways glances. The very anonymity he depended on for safety begins to dissolve as rumors about the janitor who saved a patient spread like wildfire through the hospital's tightly knit community. The aftermath of the incident is a turning point for Elijah. Before, he could maintain a low profile, keeping his true identity and past well concealed beneath the guise of a simple janitor. However, the life-saving action he took, no matter how noble, breaks the illusion of invisibility. Staff members who barely acknowledged him before are now buzzing with curiosity and disbelief. The quiet hum of hospital routines is replaced by a growing tension, and Elijah feels the weight of eyes silently tracking him, analyzing every move with suspicion and wonder. This sudden shift disrupts the fragile equilibrium he had built around himself. Among those intrigued and concerned by Elijah's sudden prominence is Dr. Caitlin. A young, ambitious resident with a keen intellect and an unwavering dedication to medicine, Kate embodies the relentless drive of someone still discovering the boundaries of her profession. For her, the rumors about the janitor are not just gossip, they are a puzzle begging to be solved. She senses there is more beneath the surface of Elijah's unassuming exterior, a story waiting to be unearthed. Kate's investigation into Elijah's identity grows increasingly deliberate, driven by both professional curiosity and a sense of moral obligation to understand how someone outside the official medical ranks could intervene so effectively in a critical situation. Kate's role in this unfolding drama marks a collision of worlds. Her belief in transparency, accountability, and the sanctity of medical practice contrasts sharply with Elijah's desperate desire to remain hidden. As she starts asking questions, piecing together fragments of his past, she unintentionally becomes the catalyst for the very exposure Elijah fears. The more Kate digs, the more precarious Elijah's situation becomes. He is forced to confront the possibility that the secrets he buried deep might surface, potentially undoing everything he has tried to escape. Elijah's internal struggle intensifies as he wrestles with two competing impulses, the urge to stay silent and avoid detection, and the dawning realization that his past may no longer be something he can control or conceal. His previous life, marked by a medical license that was revoked or abandoned under ambiguous circumstances, threatens to resurface. The chapter reveals how this looming exposure is not just about reputation but survival. Elijah's retreat into anonymity was a shield against pain, judgment, and perhaps even legal or professional consequences. Now that shield is cracking. The hospital environment itself becomes a pressure cooker of anxiety and suspicion. In an institution where hierarchy and rules govern behavior, the presence of an outsider who operates beyond those formal boundaries challenges the status quo. Staff members, from nurses to administrators, begin to question how Elijah was able to act so decisively. Whispers turn into pointed questions, and some begin to view Elijah with skepticism or even distrust. The rumor mill feeds on uncertainty, and without clear answers, assumptions and fears take root. This mounting tension is mirrored in Elijah's behavior. Once quiet and reserved, he grows increasingly guarded, his interactions with others marked by a mixture of caution and fatigue. He avoids eye contact and hurriedly moves through the hallways, trying to slip past those who seek to engage him. Yet, no matter how hard he tries, he cannot escape the new reality imposed upon him. The hospital, a place that had offered him a refuge of invisibility, now feels like a spotlighted stage where every misstep could have serious consequences. Throughout this chapter, the theme of identity is central. Elijah's struggle highlights the profound challenges faced by individuals who must reconcile their past selves with the present. His medical training and instincts remain intact, but his current role does not acknowledge or validate these skills. This dissonance creates a profound internal conflict. He is caught between two identities, the competent, licensed doctor he once was, and the marginalized janitor he has become. His attempt to suppress his former self is challenged by the incident, which brought his true capabilities to light despite his efforts. At the same time, Dr. Caitlin represents a contrasting perspective, one grounded in institutional authority and the rules that govern medical practice. Her investigation symbolizes the system's need for order and clarity, for ensuring that those who provide care meet established standards. However, this insistence on formal credentials also raises questions about the rigidity of systems that may overlook or exclude capable individuals because of past mistakes or unconventional paths. As suspicion mounts, Elijah faces not only external pressures but also an internal reckoning. The fears that once drove him into hiding, fear of judgment, loss, and exposure, resurface with renewed intensity. Yet, beneath this fear lies a flicker of hope, a possibility that being seen might lead to understanding or even redemption. The chapter explores this tension, suggesting that while Elijah's past has shaped his retreat, it may also hold the key to his future. By the chapter's conclusion, the hospital is no longer just a setting for medical drama but a crucible where personal histories and institutional priorities collide. Elijah's reality has irrevocably changed. The choice before him is stark: continue to hide and risk being uncovered without control, or confront the truth of his past and the uncertainty of what lies ahead. The chapter ends with this unresolved tension, setting the stage for the difficult decisions and revelations to come. In sum, a complex portrait of a man caught between worlds, between past and present, invisibility and exposure, silence and truth. The hospital, with its bustling corridors and unspoken hierarchies, mirrors this conflict, amplifying the stakes and making every whisper, every glance, a potential turning point. Elijah's struggle is not just about maintaining a secret but about reclaiming a sense of self in a reality that no longer allows him to remain unseen. The chapter masterfully captures the fragility of this new reality and the profound impact it has on both Elijah and those around him. The conflict in Chapter 3 escalates rapidly as hospital administrators and Dr. Harlan intensify their investigation into Elijah's background. Dr. Harlan, a senior surgeon who feels threatened by Elijah's presence and apparent competence, spearheads the effort to uncover details about Elijah's medical credentials. This investigation is driven not only by professional suspicion but also by Harlan's personal resentment, as Elijah's skill and calm under pressure challenge the existing hierarchy and threaten Harlan's authority in the hospital. As the administrators dig deeper, Elijah's previously hidden past begins to surface. Official documents, medical licenses, and training records emerge, revealing that Elijah did indeed hold valid medical credentials in the past. However, the details uncovered are incomplete, raising more questions than answers. Some of the documents indicate that Elijah's medical license may have been revoked or voluntarily surrendered, but the reasons for this remain unclear. The uncertainty fuels gossip and speculation throughout the hospital, heightening tensions between staff members who either support Elijah or view him with suspicion. The atmosphere becomes charged with mistrust. Accusations begin to fly, and Elijah is increasingly isolated as colleagues question his legitimacy and right to practice medicine. This climate of suspicion puts strain on the hospital's dynamics, affecting teamwork and patient care. Elijah, however, maintains his composure, choosing to stay focused on his work despite the growing hostility around him. Kate finds herself caught in the middle of this brewing storm. She has witnessed Elijah's competence firsthand and feels a loyalty toward him, believing in his abilities and the good he has done for patients. Yet, the pressure from hospital administrators and colleagues mounts, forcing her to grapple with conflicting emotions. Should she stand by Elijah and risk professional consequences, or should she conform to the institutional demands for transparency and accountability? Elijah's dilemma becomes increasingly urgent. Revealing the full truth about his past could clear the air but might also end his career within the hospital and damage his reputation permanently. On the other hand, continuing to hide his history keeps him vulnerable to further scrutiny and accusations, potentially risking legal repercussions and loss of trust among colleagues and patients. The tension in the chapter highlights the difficult balance between personal integrity, professional survival, and the often unforgiving nature of institutional politics. The chapter also explores broader themes related to identity and redemption. Elijah's buried credentials are not just documents, they symbolize a past he has tried to leave behind, for reasons yet unknown. His reluctance to disclose everything suggests a complicated history marked by failure, regret, or perhaps injustice. This adds emotional depth to the conflict, as readers sense that Elijah's struggle is not merely about professional validation but also about reclaiming a sense of self. Meanwhile, Dr. Harlan's relentless pursuit of Elijah's background underscores the competitive and often ruthless environment within the hospital. His actions reveal how power dynamics and personal vendettas can influence institutional decisions, sometimes at the expense of fairness and patient welfare. The senior surgeon's motivations are partly driven by insecurity and a need to reassert dominance, making him a formidable antagonist in Elijah's story. The chapter's tension reaches a crescendo when hospital administrators confront Elijah with the findings from their investigation. Faced with mounting pressure, Elijah must decide how to respond. His choice will not only affect his standing within the hospital but also shape the relationships with colleagues like Kate, who must decide where their loyalties lie. The stakes are raised dramatically, setting the stage for further conflict and difficult decisions ahead. Throughout this chapter, the narrative maintains a careful balance between external conflict and internal struggle. Elijah's calm demeanor in the face of accusation contrasts with the turbulent emotions running through the hospital staff, highlighting his resilience and the complex nature of his character. Kate's internal conflict provides a humanizing counterpoint, illustrating how institutional pressures can impact personal relationships and ethical choices. In summary, Chapter 3 focuses on the rising stakes surrounding Elijah's hidden past. The hospital's investigation, driven by Dr. Harlan's hostility and the administrator's need for clarity, exposes fragments of Elijah's medical credentials, sparking suspicion and division. Elijah's predicament forces him to weigh the risks of disclosure against continued secrecy, while Kate navigates the difficult terrain between loyalty and institutional pressure. The chapter deepens the central conflict, exploring themes of identity, power, and the price of truth within a high-pressure medical environment. Kate's discovery of Elijah's past sets the stage for a seismic shift within the hospital and the lives of those involved. Previously, Elijah was seen as just the quiet janitor and unassuming presence in the hospital halls who seemed to possess an uncanny medical intuition. But beneath the surface lay a profound story of loss, guilt, and sacrifice, which Kate uncovers piece by piece. What emerges is a tale of a man who once stood at the pinnacle of the medical profession, only to be shattered by a tragic surgical error that changed everything. Elijah's journey in medicine began with brilliance and promise. He was a trauma surgeon educated at Johns Hopkins, one of the most prestigious medical institutions in the world. His record was spotless, marked by successful surgeries and innovative techniques that earned him admiration among peers. His expertise in trauma surgery made him a lifeline for countless patients. However, the weight of one devastating event overshadowed his entire career and life. The pivotal moment occurred when Elijah's wife was brought into the emergency room following a severe accident. As the most qualified surgeon present, Elijah took charge of her care. Despite his skill and determination, the surgery did not go as hoped. A critical error during the procedure led to his wife's death. This wasn't a mere professional setback but a personal catastrophe that struck to the core of his identity. The man who had dedicated his life to saving others was unable to save the person he loved most. The grief that followed was overwhelming. Elijah wrestled with immense guilt and remorse, feelings that consumed him daily. The burden of responsibility for his wife's death led him to make a drastic decision. He voluntarily surrendered his medical license. Unlike many cases where doctors lose their credentials due to disciplinary action, Elijah's departure was a self-imposed exile from medicine. He sought to escape not just the profession, but the memories and associations that came with it. After leaving the medical world, Elijah disappeared into obscurity, taking on the role of a janitor in a hospital far from the bustling life he once knew. This new role allowed him to stay close to the hospital environment without engaging in medical practice. It was a form of penance and self-punishment, a way to remain near healing and suffering without being at the center of it. Yet, despite his fall from grace, his knowledge and instincts remained sharp. Kate's investigation into Elijah's background unearths these truths, shaking the hospital community to its core. The revelation that the janitor was a once respected surgeon who had left medicine voluntarily due to a personal tragedy prompts a mix of reactions. Many staff members who had dismissed him now re-evaluate their judgments. Sympathy for Elijah's pain grows, but there is also concern and confusion about his current involvement in patient care. The hospital board is thrust into a difficult situation. On one hand, Elijah's medical knowledge and past achievements command respect. On the other, his current status as a non-licensed individual working in a hospital, even as a janitor, raises serious legal and ethical questions. The board quickly moves to suspend Elijah from his janitorial duties, arguing that he cannot be allowed to function within the hospital if he might influence medical decisions without a valid license. Media attention explodes with the news. Stories break across local and national outlets, painting Elijah as a tragic figure caught between his past glory and his current obscurity. Headlines speculate on the implications of a janitor with a medical degree working in a hospital. Public opinion becomes divided. Some view him as a fallen hero who deserves compassion and a second chance. Others express concern about safety and regulatory compliance. The hospital faces scrutiny over how Elijah's employment and unofficial involvement in patient care were allowed to persist undetected for so long. Elijah himself is profoundly affected by this exposure. The quiet life he tried to maintain, marked by anonymity and withdrawal from the medical world, vanishes instantly. The floodlights of public attention bring pain, shame, but also a measure of release. He can no longer hide from his past or the consequences of his choices. Yet, even amid the turmoil, Elijah grapples with whether this moment could also serve as a catalyst for healing and redemption. Kate finds herself at the center of this unfolding drama. Her role in uncovering the truth places her in a complicated position. She respects Elijah's talent and feels empathy for his suffering, but she also understands the gravity of his current situation. The ethical dilemmas become personal for her, challenging her own beliefs about medicine, forgiveness, and justice. The hospital's reaction encapsulates the broader tension between compassion and regulation. Institutions designed to protect patients and uphold medical standards must also confront the complexities of human error and tragedy. Elijah's story forces the hospital to re-evaluate not only their hiring and oversight practices but also how they address the humanity of their staff and the potential for redemption after failure. As media stories continue to circulate, public discourse around Elijah's case broadens into conversations about mental health support for medical professionals, the stigma surrounding mistakes, and the possibility of second chances in careers marked by intense pressure and high stakes. Ultimately, the chapter closes with the hospital and its community standing at a crossroads. Elijah's secret life is fully exposed, and there is no returning to the quiet janitor existence he once knew. The fallout from this revelation will ripple through the hospital's corridors, challenging everyone involved to confront their own fears, judgments, and hopes for forgiveness. Kate's discovery is more than just a plot twist. It is a profound exploration of loss, resilience, and the complexities of human nature within the high-pressure world of medicine. It sets the stage for future conflicts and growth, underscoring that sometimes, the greatest battles take place not in the operating room but within the hearts of those who heal. Elijah's suspension marks a profound turning point in both his professional and personal life. Once a dedicated janitor at the hospital, his suspension thrusts him into an unexpected exile. This removal from his daily work environment is not merely a loss of employment, it becomes a symbolic severance from a community and purpose that had gradually become central to his existence. The hospital, a place where he found meaning and perhaps a way to atone for past mistakes, now feels like a distant world from which he is barred. This enforced absence isolates Elijah, compounding his emotional turmoil. In the days following his suspension, Elijah battles with overwhelming guilt and self-doubt. These emotions are not fleeting, they embed themselves deep within his psyche, driving him further into seclusion. His mind replays the events leading to his suspension, analyzing every decision and action with harsh judgment. This internal conflict is a reflection of the heavy burden he carries, one that extends beyond the incident itself to the core of his identity and self-worth. The guilt he feels is pervasive, convincing him that he has failed not only the hospital but also himself and those he cares about. This self-recrimination prevents him from seeking support or even reaching out to the few allies he still has. Kate, a colleague who understands the complexities of Elijah's situation, steps forward to publicly defend him. Her support is significant, both in its courage and consequence. In a professional environment that often prioritizes reputation and adherence to protocol, Kate's vocal defense of Elijah is an act of dissent. She challenges the prevailing narrative that has cast Elijah as a liability, instead presenting him as a person worthy of empathy and understanding. This public stance comes at a cost. Kate faces backlash from her peers and superiors, who view her support for Elijah as jeopardizing the hospital's image and their own positions. Despite this, her unwavering commitment highlights a crucial theme: the importance of solidarity and compassion in the face of institutional adversity. The tension between Elijah's isolation and Kate's public defense underscores the complexity of their circumstances. While Elijah retreats inward, burdened by guilt, Kate confronts the external challenges head-on. This contrast illustrates different responses to crisis withdrawal versus engagement and sets up an emotional dynamic that drives the narrative forward. Amidst this personal and professional upheaval, the hospital itself grapples with a critical situation. A young child, gravely ill, urgently requires surgery. This emergency creates a palpable sense of urgency and highlights a stark reality: the hospital currently lacks an available surgeon qualified to perform the necessary operation. This gap is not just a logistical problem, it is a painful reminder of the void left by Elijah's absence. The hospital, which once had the benefit of Elijah's skills and presence, now faces the consequences of losing someone who was, in his own way, an integral part of the care team. The deteriorating condition of the child casts a shadow over the hospital's corridors, emphasizing the real-world stakes behind the institutional drama. This scenario brings to the forefront issues of resource allocation, the fragility of healthcare systems, and the impact that the absence of a single individual can have on patient outcomes. It also serves as a metaphor for Elijah's own fragile state. Both he and the child are in precarious positions, dependent on intervention and care that seem just out of reach. Throughout this chapter, the juxtaposition of Elijah's personal struggle with the hospital's urgent crisis deepens the emotional resonance of the story. Elijah's internal exile parallels the hospital's external emergency, linking his fate to that of the institution he is no longer part of. His suspension is not simply a matter of employment but symbolizes a fracture in a larger system, one that affects lives in profound and immediate ways. Elijah's self-imposed isolation also reflects his belief that he is undeserving of redemption or support. This mindset traps him in a cycle of despair, preventing him from recognizing the potential for forgiveness and renewal. It is a poignant portrayal of how guilt and shame can erode one's sense of identity and belonging, leaving a person disconnected from both their past contributions and future possibilities. Kate's role as his defender, meanwhile, shines a light on the power of advocacy and empathy within rigid institutions. Her willingness to stand by Elijah, despite professional risks, challenges the hospital's punitive approach and advocates for a more nuanced understanding of human error and redemption. Her character embodies the tension between adherence to rules and the need for compassion, a balance that is often difficult to achieve but essential in healthcare environments. The emergency involving the critically ill child serves as a narrative catalyst, forcing the hospital and the reader to confront the consequences of Elijah's suspension beyond individual reputations and legal considerations. It exposes systemic vulnerabilities and raises questions about who is deemed indispensable and why. The absence of an immediate surgical solution not only heightens dramatic tension but also calls attention to the human cost of institutional decisions. Together, these threads weave a complex portrait of consequence and interdependence. Elijah's fall from grace is not isolated, it ripples outward, affecting those around him and the very lives he once sought to protect. The chapter captures the fragility of professional standing and personal redemption, illustrating how easily both can be disrupted by a single event. Moreover, the narrative implicitly asks whether systems designed to uphold standards sometimes overlook the humanity of the individuals within them. Elijah's suspension, while justified by official protocols, may fail to account for his deeper value and the ways in which strict enforcement can unintentionally harm both individuals and the community. In summary, Chapter 5 delves into the aftermath of Elijah's suspension with a careful exploration of guilt, isolation, loyalty, and institutional failure. It balances the personal with the systemic, showing how individual struggles intersect with broader organizational challenges. Through Elijah's retreat and Kate's advocacy, the story highlights different facets of courage and the complexities involved in seeking justice and compassion within rigid frameworks. The chapter's focus on the critically ill child's urgent need for surgery adds an immediate, life-or-death urgency that underscores the stakes involved. It serves as a poignant reminder that behind every policy and disciplinary action are real people whose lives are directly affected. Ultimately, the chapter paints a sobering picture of exile not just as physical separation but as an emotional and existential state. Elijah's journey is one of wrestling with loss, identity, and the hope for redemption, even when it seems out of reach. Meanwhile, the hospital's crisis hints at the potential consequences when valuable individuals are pushed aside, and systems fail to adapt with compassion. This intricate interplay of personal pain and institutional crisis forms the heart of Chapter 5, offering a nuanced and emotionally charged exploration of what happens when a healer is cast out and lives hang in the balance. Elijah's internal conflict takes center stage in this chapter as he wrestles with a powerful duality, the urge to help those in need and the overwhelming fear of public judgment. This struggle is not only psychological but deeply emotional, revealing the complexity of his character and the heavy burden he carries. The chapter explores how external pressures from hospital politics to media scrutiny compound Elijah's turmoil, forcing him to confront questions about identity, purpose, and forgiveness. At the outset, Elijah is caught in a web of conflicting impulses. On one hand, his expertise and compassion compel him to act, to step into the operating room where his skills are desperately needed. On the other hand, the fear of exposure and condemnation keeps him rooted in hesitation. This fear is not abstract, it is grounded in very real consequences. Elijah's past mistakes or controversies have made him a figure marked by public scrutiny, and the potential backlash looms large in his mind. The chapter highlights how the prospect of re-entering the medical world is fraught with risk not just professionally but personally, threatening his safety and emotional well-being. Externally, the environment around Elijah intensifies his inner conflict. Hospital politics create significant obstacles, as institutional agendas and bureaucracy clash with the urgency of patient care. The hospital administration is cautious, if not outright resistant, to any actions that could invite scandal or liability. This resistance is a reflection of a larger systemic problem. Institutions often prioritize reputation and protocol over immediate human needs. For Elijah, these political barriers exacerbate his feelings of isolation, making the path back into medicine appear even more daunting. Simultaneously, media scrutiny magnifies the pressure. The public's gaze, fueled by sensationalism and judgment, threatens to transform Elijah's personal struggle into a spectacle. The media attention is relentless and invasive, painting him in a light that feels reductive and unforgiving. This exposure threatens to undo any progress he might make toward redemption or healing. The chapter illustrates how public judgment can become a form of punishment that extends beyond legal or professional consequences, shaping a narrative that traps individuals in their past. Within this maelstrom of external pressure, Elijah's internal battle unfolds. He confronts his own guilt and doubts, wrestling with questions of self-worth and identity. The chapter delves into his psyche, revealing the weight of past failures and the torment of self-reproach. Elijah's struggle is not merely about whether to return to work, it is about whether he can forgive himself and reclaim a sense of purpose. This internal debate captures the universal tension between fear and hope, shame and courage. Kate's role in this chapter is pivotal. She embodies a voice of encouragement and belief, urging Elijah to reclaim his purpose despite the obstacles. Her support is not naive, she understands the risks and the pain, but she also sees the necessity of Elijah's return to the field. Kate's encouragement helps to anchor Elijah, providing a counterbalance to his fear and doubt. Her presence is a reminder that redemption and purpose are possible, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Together, these elements build a narrative of tension and possibility. Elijah's indecision and the mounting external pressures create a sense of urgency, while the internal dialogue grounds the story in emotional truth. The chapter explores themes of fear, guilt, identity, and resilience, weaving them into a nuanced portrayal of a man caught between exile and return. Ultimately, this chapter does not offer easy answers or clear resolutions. Instead, it presents Elijah's struggle in all its complexity, inviting the reader to engage with the moral and emotional questions at its heart. The chapter's power lies in its honest depiction of doubt and courage, illustrating that the path to redemption is neither simple nor linear, but requires confronting both external obstacles and internal demons. Elijah and Kate stand at the precipice of a critical decision, driven by urgency and desperation. Their plan to save the child defies hospital regulations, but they are convinced it is the only way forward. As the young patient's condition deteriorates rapidly, the clock becomes their greatest adversary. Time is slipping away, and the established protocols, designed to ensure safety and order, threaten to become barriers to life itself. In the sterile confines of the hospital, where rules are rigid and hierarchy strict, Elijah and Kate quietly conspire. Their plan is a risky one. Elijah, not officially authorized to perform the surgery alone, will step in if no certified surgeon arrives in time. The pact between them is unspoken but resolute, a shared understanding of the stakes involved. It is a commitment born from necessity, forged under the pressure of impending tragedy. Elijah prepares himself both mentally and physically. The weight of responsibility presses heavily upon him. He knows the risks, legal repercussions, professional ruin, and the possibility of failure, but the urgency of saving a life outweighs these fears. In the scrub room, he methodically washes and dresses, his movements precise and practiced, each step a ritual to steel his nerves. The antiseptic smell fills the air, mixing with the sterile silence that hangs thick around him. As he dons the surgical gown and gloves, Elijah's resolve hardens. This is more than just an operation, it is a test of his courage, skill, and conviction. Meanwhile, the hospital atmosphere tightens. The absence of a specialist sparks concern and suspicion among the staff. Nurses exchange uneasy glances, the usual buzz of activity replaced by a tense hush. Security personnel increase their vigilance, their presence a silent reminder of the hospital's strict rules and the possible consequences of breach. The hospital director watches from the sidelines, an imposing figure whose attention adds a layer of pressure to an already volatile situation. Every movement is scrutinized, every decision questioned, as the system braces for the worst or the miraculous. As the minutes crawl by, Elijah's mind sharpens. He recalls every lesson, every training session, every moment that has prepared him for this. The theoretical knowledge must now translate into action, hands steady and decisions swift. He envisions the steps ahead, the incisions, the tools, the delicate balance of cutting and preserving. The challenge is immense, not just because of the technical demands but because he must do so under the radar, without the usual support and oversight. Kate remains a steadfast ally. Her trust in Elijah is unwavering, and her willingness to support him despite the risks speaks volumes about her character. She understands the gravity of the situation and the potential fallout, yet she chooses to stand by him. Together, they embody a quiet rebellion against the rigidity of the system, united by their shared goal of saving the child's life above all else. The hospital corridors buzz faintly with anticipation and unease. Staff members prepare for the arrival of the authorized surgeon, hoping for a resolution that avoids conflict and catastrophe. Yet as time slips past the expected window, it becomes clear that the waiting game may cost the child dearly. Elijah's moment draws nearer, the silence before the storm. The chapter skillfully builds tension through these interwoven threads, the urgency of the patient's declining state, the tightening security, the hospital director's watchful eye, and Elijah's internal battle. Each element adds weight to the narrative, creating a palpable sense of impending crisis. Elijah's commitment to the plan is both admirable and harrowing. He steps into a role he is not officially sanctioned for, guided by skill and conscience rather than protocol. This choice challenges the established order, raising questions about the balance between rules and humanity, authority, and individual initiative. The narrative paints a vivid picture of a hospital on edge, caught between the need to uphold its policies and the unpredictable nature of emergencies. It highlights the often unseen conflicts faced by medical professionals who must navigate bureaucratic constraints while confronting life and death situations. Ultimately, the chapter sets the stage for the pivotal moment to come. Elijah's resolve is unwavering, the stage is set for the ultimate test of his abilities and courage. The reader is left poised at the edge of the operation, where every second counts and the consequences of action or inaction will reverberate far beyond the operating room. In this way, the chapter is a masterclass in tension building, character development, and thematic exploration. It delves deep into the complexities of medical ethics, personal sacrifice, and the fragile line between rule following and rule breaking when lives hang in the balance. Through Elijah and Kate's desperate plan, the story confronts fundamental questions about what it means to truly save someone and what costs are worth paying in the process. Elijah, previously known only as a janitor within the hospital, steps forward to perform a complex operation when the situation grows dire. This moment serves as the turning point in the story, revealing the depth of Elijah's hidden talents and setting in motion dramatic consequences for him personally and professionally. The chapter opens in the operating room, where a child's life hangs precariously in the balance. The atmosphere is thick with urgency and tension. Medical staff scramble to stabilize the patient, but it quickly becomes clear that the available surgeons either lack the necessary expertise or are unavailable. The situation calls for decisive action, and Elijah rises to the occasion. His calm demeanor in the face of overwhelming pressure contrasts sharply with the anxiety around him. As he prepares to operate, the surgical team and nurses watch, their expressions mixing disbelief with growing respect. The narrative focuses closely on the technical precision Elijah displays. Every movement is deliberate, showcasing a mastery of surgical techniques that surprises and captivates the observers. The beeping monitors, the sterile tools, and the bright lights of the operating room create a cinematic backdrop that heightens the drama. The tension escalates as Elijah maneuvers through the delicate procedure, balancing the urgency of the situation with the need for accuracy. His expertise shines through, revealing a surgeon whose skills are far beyond what anyone expected from the hospital's janitor. Kate, a key figure who has been aware of Elijah's capabilities, assists him during the operation. Her presence is significant as it symbolizes both support and validation. She helps bridge the gap between Elijah's concealed identity and the institutional world of the hospital. Together, they form a partnership grounded in trust and determination to save the child's life, regardless of the personal risks involved. Kate's role emphasizes the theme of belief in talent and merit over societal roles and appearances. As the surgery progresses, the hospital staff witnesses Elijah's brilliance firsthand. Their initial shock gives way to admiration and hope as the child's condition stabilizes. This success marks a pivotal moment, demonstrating that Elijah's skills are genuine and life-saving. The narrative captures the collective breath-holding and release of tension as the operation concludes successfully. The child's survival is not only a victory for Elijah and Kate but also a profound statement about hidden potential and the breaking of barriers. However, the triumph is immediately tempered by the consequences of Elijah's actions. Cameras in the hospital capture the entire scene, broadcasting the revelation of Elijah's true identity as a world-class surgeon hidden behind the role of a janitor. This exposure brings the story from the confines of the operating room to the broader public stage, forcing the hospital administration and legal authorities to respond. The institution reacts swiftly and decisively. Security personnel arrive and arrest Elijah, underscoring the rigid and unforgiving nature of bureaucratic systems that prioritize rules and regulations over individual acts of heroism. Despite saving a life, Elijah's unauthorized surgery is deemed a breach of protocol, and the hospital must navigate the fallout of this unprecedented event. This development raises questions about the balance between legal responsibility and moral obligation, as well as the cost of transcending societal expectations. Elijah's final words to Kate, "No matter what happens to me," she lived, highlight his selflessness and unwavering commitment to preserving life above all else. This statement serves as a powerful emotional anchor, reflecting his acceptance of the personal sacrifice he faces. It encapsulates the central conflict of the chapter, the tension between doing what is right and facing the consequences imposed by institutional authority. Throughout the chapter, several themes emerge prominently. The tension between identity and role is central, as Elijah's hidden past and true abilities clash with the way society categorizes and limits him. The story also explores the theme of courage under pressure, with Elijah embodying quiet strength and resolve in the face of danger and potential punishment. Additionally, the narrative critiques institutional inflexibility, highlighting how systems can be slow to recognize and reward genuine talent when it exists outside conventional frameworks. The use of the surgical setting intensifies the drama, with the operating room functioning as a microcosm of life and death stakes and human vulnerability. The precise, technical nature of surgery contrasts with the unpredictable emotional responses of those involved, creating a compelling dynamic that drives the narrative forward. The chapter's pacing mirrors the ebb and flow of the operation itself, with moments of rapid action balanced by brief pauses that heighten suspense. Visually and thematically, the chapter is rich with symbolism. Elijah's role as a janitor wielding a scalpel represents the dismantling of social hierarchies and preconceived notions of worth and capability. The spotlight that falls on him both literally through the cameras and metaphorically through public scrutiny forces a reckoning with truth and identity. This spotlight is double-edged, bringing recognition but also vulnerability. Kate's involvement reinforces the importance of allies who see beyond surface appearances. Her trust and support provide Elijah with the validation necessary to step fully into his role as a surgeon. Their partnership suggests that change often requires both individual courage and collective support. As the chapter closes, the narrative leaves readers with a sense of unresolved tension. While the immediate crisis, the child's life, is averted, Elijah's fate remains uncertain. The legal and professional repercussions loom large, raising questions about justice, recognition, and the cost of defying expectations. This ambiguity invites reflection on the broader societal implications of the story and sets the stage for future developments. In summary, is a powerful convergence of action, revelation, and consequence. Elijah's transformation from janitor to savior challenges assumptions and highlights the complexity of identity and morality. The successful surgery serves as both a triumph of skill and a catalyst for conflict, propelling the narrative into new territory. Through vivid description, thematic depth, and emotional resonance, the chapter delivers a compelling and thought-provoking climax that underscores the human capacity for courage and redemption amid systemic obstacles. This collective outpouring is a powerful response to the perceived injustice he faced, transforming Elijah from a forgotten figure into a symbol of resilience and hope. The community's involvement is not just passive sympathy but active advocacy, igniting conversations about fairness, second chances, and the human capacity to change. This public movement challenges the hospital board's initial decision, prompting a formal re-evaluation of Elijah's case. The board, once resolute in their judgment, now faces mounting pressure to reconsider the consequences Elijah endured. Their reconsideration marks a significant moment, demonstrating the impact of public opinion on institutional processes and highlighting the tension between strict professional protocols and the need for compassion and understanding. As the board reviews the case, they must weigh the facts with a renewed perspective, considering Elijah's qualifications, his remorse, and the broader implications of denying a talented doctor a second chance. This process underscores the complex balance between accountability and forgiveness in professional settings, especially in fields like medicine where trust and responsibility are paramount. During this period, Elijah undergoes profound personal reflection. Confronted with his past mistakes and their fallout, he reaches a place of acceptance. This acceptance is not resignation but a deep understanding of his journey and growth. He no longer seeks to erase what happened but rather to learn from it, allowing his experiences to fuel a renewed commitment to his work and his patients. Elijah's transformation is both internal and external. Internally, he cultivates humility, recognizing his imperfections while strengthening his resolve to excel. Externally, he sheds the invisibility he endured while working as a janitor, stepping once more into the spotlight as a dedicated surgeon. This shift is symbolic, representing the triumph of perseverance and character over circumstance and judgment. His return to medicine is marked by a profound sense of purpose. Elijah approaches his role not with arrogance or entitlement but with a grounded confidence born from struggle and self-awareness. He understands the value of every moment in his profession and the impact his care can have on patients' lives. The chapter portrays Elijah's journey back into the medical community as a powerful narrative of redemption. His re-emergence is celebrated not just as a personal victory but as a beacon of hope for others who face setbacks and stigma. It conveys the message that redemption is attainable when individuals are willing to confront their past, accept responsibility, and commit to growth. Throughout the chapter, themes of forgiveness, resilience, and community support are woven tightly into the narrative. The public's role in advocating for Elijah highlights the importance of collective empathy and the potential for societal change. The hospital board's decision to reconsider their stance reflects the possibility of institutional flexibility and the humanization of policy. Elijah's personal growth embodies the delicate interplay between humility and strength. His story challenges preconceived notions about failure and worthiness, encouraging a broader understanding of what it means to rebuild one's life and career after adversity. Ultimately, the chapter culminates in Elijah's full circle moment, returning to the hospital not as a hidden janitor but as a respected surgeon. This moment encapsulates the essence of the story, that redemption is not about erasing the past but about using it as a foundation to build a better future. Elijah's journey is a testament to the enduring human spirit, the power of support and forgiveness, and the hopeful possibility of transformation.